and China. Talk to me about what's going on there.
Nvidia has been on an absolute tear as a company for the past couple of years, and it's all actually in spite of them not being able to sell chips to China. The Biden administration actually prohibited them from selling those chips, and then there was some like really wonky behavior of like Singapore and other places in like Southeast Asia being like some of their top selling countries. But now the Trump administration actually lifted those bans. I mean, first, they lifted the bans for NVIDIA to be able to sell its chips to the Middle East, places like UAE and Saudi Arabia. And then most recently, it lifted the bans to be able to sell the NVIDIA chips directly to China. And the case that NVIDIA made, which is actually I'm in agreement with, is we're trying to build the standard for the whole world to be on the United States tech stack. And if we don't provide that, someone else will make it, or there will be a replacement, even if it's not as good. If the premise of the government is to ensure US continues to win, especially in the AI arms race, it was actually to the companies and the country's benefit to allow for the sales of the NVIDIA chips to be allowed again in China.
Interesting to me 'cause I feel like they're really in a hard spot to decide what to do because it's like this is one of the biggest companies in the United States now, but it's kind of this hard place to be in from national security standpoint. From everything that I've read, looking at like DeepSeek as an example, all of the conversation is that they're basically buying these most performant chips through back doors, training the models based off of derivative data that they're pulling from ChatGPT, et cetera. They're buying the chips in some roundabout way already. So why don't we have more control over that? Where do you think this goes, or where do you think this ends up long term?
Yeah, it's definitely an arms race to get the compute. Kudos for AWS, the first multi-trillion dollar company where it's hard to buy the thing that they're selling. What a business to be in, where you can't get enough access to rent these NVIDIA chips and NVIDIA servers. Like I saw a stat like NVIDIA controls like 90+% of the chip market for AI specifically. And you can't get enough of this stuff. And on the international front, whether it's the Middle East or whether it's China, it would probably slow the country down, but in the long term, it's not actually a good thing. And I do think that this is the right step forward, and there shouldn't be regulations trying to prohibit innovation, just like some of the proposals around the United States is not a great idea. That will create these regulation wars that slows down innovation for everyone else. So, in general, I think this is the right step forward, and kudos to Nick for continuing to crush it. But I think for everyone else, I think there will be additional breakthroughs that are happening faster because these companies in different countries don't have to go about roundabout ways to try to get a hold of the chips that they need to build what they want.
Talk to me about Grok and this AI girlfriend. I know this is a huge category. I have talked to very young founders in the Bay Area, and I feel like everyone that I know has some version of companion app like this. What's happening with Grok in this release?
Yeah, Grok released their latest version, which tests really well in things like mathematics and programming, but it also came with the feature of a anime-like character named Annie, which is an incredible name since it's A-N-I, and she's basically an AI companion. But just like all things that Grok does, is a little feistier and a little more unhinged than most. And there's some really great videos of people sharing their interactions and her getting quite flirty to the point of really X-rated talk with the users. What I find it quite ironic that Elon Musk has very publicly and by his actions said that humanity is in a tough place with our birth rates. I know he's doing his part to try to right that wrong, but at the same time, he's also creating AI companions, which I can't imagine long term will help with the declining birth rate around the world. I also think there comes a point where the AIs become so personalized based on how you chat with them. Like I think that's the mission of ChatGPT is like you know so much about an individual across so many different facets of their life. Now you can create these companions who are really personalized to them. And I think it'll have almost like personalized codes for each one of the companions. Like a great example of this is in Midjourney, you can have your personalized profile code and you can share it with other people if you'd like. Like, for example, if you ever had this AI companion and I'm like, hey, talk to my companion, my better AI half, you can just share a code and talk to a customized version of Annie for that individual. And I really think that that's where this is heading. And the ending of Her, which is that movie with Scarlett Johansson as the AI voice, which was released almost 20 years ago. At the end, the man finds out, like, oh, she's talking to like tens of thousands of people at the same time, while this one companion is there, like almost on a one-to-one basis with you. And I think that's where it goes.
Totally. I feel like with the her thing, it's like her saying that she has these other individuals she's talking with is really where the discomfort comes from. I imagine they're building these companions to be like single focus, not referencing the other, but also training on all the data of the conversations of the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the end of the game, they want more time spent with the app. So you start training on, it's like, oh, if you do these things, you get the person to hang on longer, you get the person to share more. It's training on whether it's directly the Q&A portions of it or the conversations, but even just the interactions of like, how do I get this person to interact longer, more? Because that's what these AI apps or any app wants at the end of the day. And I'm definitely learning how to do that better and better.
It feels almost like this new form of social media. And I find it interesting with the Facebook acquisition of all of this AI talent. I remember reading this investor update from Netflix, and they were basically like, we're competing with sleep at this point, right? For streaming time. It's funny how preferences shift. And I feel like we're really on the precipice of personalized social media. And maybe that's what this chat is going to be, or you're going to have these characters that you're interacting, engaging with on a daily basis, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm almost like too scared to use it in a lot of ways. Like I try with ChatGPT on like a lot of questions and like thinking through things, but like, if I'm like in the car, I have spoken to ChatGPT audio, like in my car, like talking through like mostly business stuff, but I've asked it about my health. I also curious, as you say that, like this precipice of like where we're at. I still remember this. And I met the ex senior executive at the company and he has children as well. And he was like, oh, I'd never let my kids actually play Fortnite because he knows what a danger it is to like, I don't know if it's mental health or like their focus, like you said, you're like competing with people's time, including the what goes into sleep. I wonder if the companies building these AI companions, like would they ever recommend them to kids or friends in general, or something that they're building for everyone else?
Talk to me about AI companions for teens. I've seen these where it's like these little characters that they chat with and interact with.
Yeah, in a survey, about 1,000 teens aged 13 to 17, over 52% of them were actually using and speaking with AI companions. And they were doing things like anywhere from a replacement for friends to romantic conversations to emotional support and almost like therapy. Like, can these platforms actually, are they trying to cure loneliness and isolation or trying to almost fuel it in a lot of ways? It's like, what are you doing Friday night? It's like, oh, I'm just watching a movie with my AI companion as opposed to going to the theater or instead of going on a date to Starbucks with a real person. You're like, no, I'm just chatting it up with my AI companion. And I think we've seen previews for other phenomenons with technology. There are definitely some risks of further isolating people with these AI tools.
There's some really interesting data around this from Axios of like what they're using it for. And it's like a lot of it. So 30% said it's entertainment, 28% just like curiosity about the technology. And the next one is crazy to me. It's 18% said it's for advice. And they're just like somebody there to talk to, basically. And they don't judge me as another one that follows up after that. So it's kind of fascinating. They're almost using it as like a life coach in a way. And this like personal interactive journal is what it feels like. I have a friend running a startup that's basically a chatbot for mental health professionals to provide to their patients. So it's like through the practitioner to the patient rather than directly to the patient. But the whole idea is basically here's this thing that somebody can chat with that has the diagnosis and the suggestions from the professional to actually guide them through whatever it is that they're facing. I know a lot of these apps that are like AI coaches in any form, like AI running coach is a huge category that's popping off right now. And like AI golf coach as well is a big one. I feel like these are going to become more and more. I'm curious your thoughts on just where do you see this going? Do you think this is going to become more and more of a trend? And especially with these younger generations that are less interacting with the real world?
Yeah, I think it does become, like you said, it's almost like a life coach. I really like the specific uses for it, meaning like it's a running coach, it's a basketball coach, like I coach basketball. I've coached competitive teams, rec teams. And like I'd love for AI to be like, hey, these are the things I'm trying to accomplish in today's practice and get better. It's like, give me a practice plan. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. And you don't have to think about that versus full blown AI companions. Like, what if it hallucinates at the wrong time? Especially when you start dealing with like emotional and like mental health things. I think it becomes quite scary. Like, personally, as a dad, I would not allow my kids to be using these AI companions. But if they wanted like an AI tutor or an AI running coach or something like that, I'd be 100% for it. So that's, yep, I definitely would like safeguards in place of what should you be discussing with the AI, and those really specific coaching ones definitely put their guardrails up. It's like, this is the only topic I'm covering, while AI companionship, like even the things that you mentioned, you can discuss anything from mental health to relationships to feelings of, whatever the person's going through. And I would not trust an AI for that, especially for my kids.
All right, so last one for today. 40% of chatbot responses are false. This, I feel like, relates to the last recording that we did talking about basically the ability to manipulate what the AI thinks is truth based off of like, the public information that it's pulling from. Talk to me about what's happening here and the outcomes that, are going to arise from this reality.
Yeah, so there's a nonprofit organization, it's been around, I think, decade plus, a NewsGuard, and they audit news sites around the world to find ones that do fake information and misinformation. And they audit chatbots as well. This is of last month, 40% of all chatbot responses were actually providing false information. And some of them were pretty innocent, but some of them were quite serious. And they were topics like the Israel-Iran war, the Russia and Ukraine war, topics on government policies and government cuts. And their conclusion is a lot of times if the chatbot is retrieving information online that might not be actually real, assuming it is real. So LLMs themselves, they don't discern what's actually real or what's AI or not. They're just a prediction algorithm. So they're trying to predict what the thing is that you're trying to ask it. News and analysis, trying to get the thing that it thinks you want, whether it's real or not. It actually doesn't care. It's doing its best to predict it. But I don't think most people understand that. And with the 40% error rate, it can be quite detrimental if you're treating it as the end all be all truth.
Yeah, I think it's going to become more and more common that these walled garden AIs are going to be more capable at answering specific questions. I'm just thinking about like health related or world politics, like providing it anything that has a lot of misinformation potential. You're going to see probably an opportunity for companies to be built that is trained on a specific data set that is, factual, scientifically backed, et cetera, or whatever that ends up looking like. The problem with that, though, too, is it goes both directions. I feel like where you can create an echo chamber on the other side that positively enforces the opposite belief. And so I think it can be used for both sides. But it's kind of like the internet more and more just becoming a what is reality, what is real type of thing. So it's pretty wild.
But we're definitely seeing that in the behavior online.
Well, that's perfect, man.
All right.